Fortnite just dropped a showcase absolutely packed with content for the final update. Superhero abilities, fresh map changes, and teasers pointing straight at Season 4. Yesterday's teaser was built entirely around the upcoming Spider-Man brand New Day collab, but if you look closely, there are a ton of interesting details hinting at what's coming in the next update. Let's kick things off with your friendly neighborhood web slinger. He's rocking a brand new suit straight out of Spider-Man Brand New Day. And just like I called it, Epic didn't bother splitting the fanbase into two camps. Instead of going with a pen and ink comic style, they rolled out the movie-accurate Spidey that matches the new film. And honestly, I'm hyped about it. The last time we got a movie collab with Tom Holland's Spider-Man was 5 years ago. And back then, we only walked away with a couple of styles. This time, it's still unclear whether we're getting one style or more. But one thing is locked in for sure. There's going to be a masked and unmasked option, which is awesome. So if any of the handful of OGs who lived through Chapter 3 Season 1 are still hanging around, get your wallets ready, because Spidey is about to hit the shop. That's not even close to everything Epic announced. On top of the gameplay trailer, they also gave us an exclusive scene from the movie presented by none other than Tom Holland himself, who confirmed the news everybody was waiting for. Web shooters are coming back. You'll be able to test them out on July 31st during Power Hour, and it looks like that same window will crank up your odds of catching Spider-Man sprites. They weren't shown in the trailer, but they're pretty much guaranteed to show up any day now. We're also getting 3 new skins featuring characters from the film. And finally, after all this time, the Punisher is making his Fortnite debut, and it's the Jon Bernthal version. The skin looks even better than anyone expected. So which one are you grabbing? Frank Castle or the new Spidey? Drop your pick in the comments. Speaking of Frank Castle, credit where credit is due, because that skin is unreal, but the trailer also showed off Hulk. It's tough to say right now whether this is a fresh take or just the same big green guy who was already in the game before. But either way, Hulk is returning to the shop, so anyone who loves the Jade Giant can throw him in their locker. Chances are we'll get even more cosmetics once the update actually goes live, including some new free rewards, but for now, the skins and web shooters are the stuff that got 100% confirmed in this teaser trailer. So all you Spidey fans and Sprite hunters, better be ready to jump into Fortnite starting July 31st to snatch up every new reward and feel out the full fun of the web shooters and the fresh gameplay. Alongside Spider-Man, Thursday is also New Sprite Day, so there's plenty of reason to make time for Fortnite before you head out to see the movie. One thing I didn't spot in the new trailer was any fresh location. Everything goes down at Battlewood Boulevard, and truthfully, it's unclear whether the Daily Bugle will pop up here or if we'll get some other theme changes, but we'll find that out on release day. Beyond all the Spidey chaos, Epic also shared the abilities of the new sprites landing in Fortnite with this update. One of the most anticipated is obviously the Peely sprite, which comes with a small chance to bump up your weapon rarity after you crack open an ammo box. Another one, the Llama sprite, basically acts as a tracker that marks rare sprites near you right on the map. On top of Peely and the Llama, a third sprite is rolling into the game, and it's the ultra-rare Quackling 0 Point. It works perfectly in theme. The moment you slap on a heal, a little Shield Bubble Jr. pops up beside you and covers you while you patch yourself back up. Sounds like a small thing, but in clutch moments when you're getting swarmed from every angle, something like that can genuinely carry the round, especially in solos where there's nobody else around to bail you out. That doesn't look like the final list either. Data miners already dug up that the files are sitting on way more sprites than we were shown, and they'll probably stick with us into the next season too. Word is, there's a John Wick sprite floating around, and supposedly a Midas sprite that's still in development. So it's entirely possible Epic feeds us new sprites bit by bit over the coming seasons instead of dumping them all right now. And keep in mind they recently patched the locator, so it hunts down the rare variants more often instead of the basic ones, which makes grinding for them way more satisfying than it used to be. Speaking of the update itself, it drops July 30th, and this will be the last major patch of the current season. So everything you're looking at is basically the farewell content before Season 3 rides off into the sunset. My advice is, don't sleep on that day if you want to grab all the good stuff while the season is still breathing. There's also a rumor going around that the web shooters themselves will only be available during Power Hour, but the Spider-Man sprite, if the leakers are right, will hand you full web swinging on a permanent basis. Basically, this could be the same mechanic as the Batman sprite that launches you upward and lets you glide a little, just with a spider twist. And the cherry on top for anyone who loves reload mode, the update brings us Springfield Reload. Yep, that same Simpsons-themed map. Epic promised to spill the details a little later, so I wouldn't be shocked if a couple of Simpsons skins come riding along with the map. But again, we'll see closer to the date. Since we're already talking about the future, let's daydream a bit about the next season. According to current leaks, Chapter 7 Season 4 kicks off around August 19th, and its main theme is going to be gaming legends. In short, for the first time in its entire history, Epic wants to dedicate a whole season to crossovers with other games, and the list of names is straight up insane. Rumor has it they're aiming to pack in at least 30 collabs with different games, so just let that number sink in. If even half of that turns out to be true, we're in for one of the juiciest seasons old school gamers have ever gotten. And if you want to dig deeper into what's waiting for us just a few weeks out, I recommend checking out my full breakdown of what to expect from the next and final season of this chapter. And not just because of its theme of crossing over with other video games, but also because of when it's dropping. We'll probably head into this season off the back of a finale event. I've got no clue what it'll look like, but my gut says it's gonna have something to do with the 0 point, which is basically off the rails right now. So the new island fusing different game worlds together will most likely show up the same way this current season did. And that event won't even be the last one, because the one that actually closes out the chapter is gonna be one of those mega events, which are hands down the best ones in Fortnite. This time, it'll land somewhere between November 28th and December 5th. And with the whole video game season sitting in between, we could be looking at a total before and after moment for Fortnite heading into Chapter 8. If they don't just straight up call it Fortnite 2 or something. I'm not gonna dig into that theory right now, because we're jumping straight into the list of possibilities for this season's historic roster. And luckily, we've already got a ton of collabs leaked. Keep in mind, some of these came from an Epic employee who's actually facing charges right now for leaking all this. We'll start with the safest bet, which is Kingdom Hearts. And not just because it's Disney property, since we already know how tight Fortnite and Disney are. But the real kicker is that there are already items sitting in the game right now, specifically tied to Rocket League. But like, you know, that's basically Fortnite too, so yeah, Kingdom Hearts is probably coming this season if it doesn't drop even sooner. As for what it brings, if it's one of those collabs that shows up in the pass, we could get Destiny Islands as a location, and for a weapon, obviously Sora's Keyblade. Next up is Mega Man, one of the most recent leaks. The big question here is which design they're gonna go with. What I'm way more confident about is the item it could bring, since his arm cannon has to be in this season, no question. And for a location, I think the most iconic pick would be Dr. Wily's castle. Then we've got one of the biggest, if not the biggest, which is Minecraft. Obviously the skin would be Steve, and what it brings to the island is clearly that blocky cube look. Honestly, I wouldn't even rule out the whole island rocking that style, like the trees, the water, all of it, with the other collab zones getting their own designs. After that, we've got Crash Bandicoot. The skin's a no-brainer, and what it could add to the gameplay would be his classic crates. As for a zone, I really have no idea what it'd bring. Then another big one would be Persona, and honestly I'm not sure which character we'd get. I'm guessing Joker based on popularity, but they've got a pretty deep bench to pull from. As for an iconic island location, I've got no clue what they'd add, and same goes for weapons. Then there's another collab, which is Beyblade. Here we're back to a massive pool of characters and possibilities. For locations, I'm picturing a Beyblade stadium, and obviously the weapon would be the spinning top with the launcher, which I think would be a genuinely great idea since Fortnite could do a lot with that concept. Moving on to the next one, we're talking Yakuza. And if I'm not mistaken, I've been talking about this one for 2 years because it's been leaked forever. The first thing that comes to mind is the game's locations with that Japanese vibe. And for skins, I'm guessing they'd go with Kiryu, Majima, or Ichiban. There's also been talk of a second wave of Metal Gear, and here the loot situation is easy. Because just like in Chapter 5, they dropped the cardboard box, and luckily the actual weapons are the same ones Fortnite already has. The classic pistols and the suppressed ones are usually always in the game, and this season would have them if this collab gets confirmed. Actually, the next collab that also makes sense to have that weapon would be James Bond. This one's like Yakuza, where we've been talking about it hitting Fortnite for months and months. And honestly, it catches nobody off guard, since Rocket League already has a bunch of Bond vehicles that would obviously come to Fortnite the same day the skin gets confirmed. As for the character, I'm not totally sure which one they'd go with, but since we got a new game this year, they could adapt that version. And the last collab that's leaked but not confirmed, which brings us to the next batch, would be Silent Hill. The location's a lock, since it'd be Silent Hill itself. As for the character, it's pretty tough to guess because there are several games, each with a different protagonist. Now we've got to remember the 4 collabs confirmed with the Epic Games Store, though I'd say all of these drop before October. But if not, we've got the Sonic collab, specifically his racing game, though what we're all hoping lands in Fortnite is the skin. And if that character does show up for the next season, I'm pretty confident the item it'd add would be something that gives you speed to rotate around the island. The one I'm not so sure would get talked about is Godzilla, since they've got a game coming this month too. And this collab is already in Fortnite, so it could be a good moment to add more characters and even bring back the Chapter 6 Battle Pass skin, since that recently happened with the Marvel ones. After those, all that's left is the remix ones, Godzilla and The Crew's Turn. So timing-wise, it lines up pretty well for this collab to land right in November. And the last big game I could find dropping in November would be Crimelight, which honestly I'd never heard of before, so I have no idea what it's gonna be or even which characters they could add. And I'll say it again, all of this is a leak. Nothing's confirmed or set in stone, but you already know Epic gets a ton of stuff leaked. In fact, it looks like Epic is cooking up a Marvel mini-season to close out Chapter 7. Word is this thing is running under the codename Nolly Snap, and it'll roll in with the V43 update. And now buckle up, because judging by the timing, this whole thing is gonna be tied directly to the new Avengers Doomsday movie, which doesn't even drop until December. And if you think this is just some random collab for a few skins, I hate to break it to you. It goes way deeper than that. Let's start with the juiciest part. If a Marvel mini-season actually happens, then the face of it is almost 100% gonna be an old familiar mug, Dr. Doom. And this isn't me reading tea leaves. The dude already stomped around our island back in Chapter 5 during the absolute Doom season, so bringing him back for the chapter finale is a slam dunk for Epic. Especially right now, when the entire Marvel machine is spinning around this exact guy in the mask. But here's a fact that'll make any lore nerd's eyes start twitching. Remember the Zero War comics? Well, in those, Dr. Doom wasn't flying solo. He was hitched to the Imagine Order, and to its founder personally, meaning our big bad Geno. Doom worked his way into the Order's inner circle and went chasing a 0-point shard all over the universe. Now connect the dots. Geno just came back. He's pulling the strings on the whole squad, and he's rebuilding the epicenter. And if we think back to how Chapter 5 ended, we never actually got rid of Dr. Doom. The Rift just booted him off somewhere into some other reality. So now it's totally possible that if Geno's planning to rebuild his order, he can call his old partner back in, and that's how Doom makes his return to the game once again. For now, that's probably the one theory that actually makes sense. But if you've got your own idea for exactly how Doom could come back, drop it in the comments. Here's my theory. If Geno really cut a deal with the last reality, then he desperately needs some heavy artillery. And who fits that puzzle piece better than Doom? For the last reality that's straight up the jackpot, landing the 2 most dangerous manipulators in the Omniverse on the same team. There's no way we digest an alliance like that on our own. Another tasty hint is hiding right there in the art from those same comics. On the covers, the Foundation is going toe-to-toe with Doom, one-on-one. And that, folks, is a ready-made idea for a whole mini-season. The Rock just so happens to have dropped off the radar, but we know he's alive and about to come back. And that can be a direct callback to the comics, only now live and in the engine. Epic lives for pulling tricks like that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, this is all rumor and leak level stuff, so take it with a grain of salt. Officially, Epic is going to keep its mouth shut till the very last second, same as always. And still, way too many threads are pointing at the same spot. Doomsday in theaters, Doom in the files, Geno on the island, and his old friendship with the Iron Mask from the comics. For a plain collab over a couple skins, that's a little too much meat on the bone, don't you think? So if a Marvel mini-season really does land, get ready for the Chapter 7 finale to be built around Doom and his shady little dealings with Geno. And exactly how epic ties the movie's Doomsday into our lore, and who ends up stabbing who in the back, we'll break all of that down. But right now, most of you are probably wondering, what's gonna happen to the 0 Point and all those sprites we've been collecting? And they're gonna disappear real soon. And unfortunately, this isn't a theory, it's just what's happening in the story. So I'm gonna explain to you why these creatures exist and why they'll stop showing up on our island. For starters, sprites like the water one and the air one were already around on the previous island back in Chapter 6, and they popped up once the 0 Point fragment landed on that island. Even so, it was never really clear why they'd been created or what the connection was between them and the 0 Point. But later on, in Chapter 7 Season 2, we saw in one of the first trailers how another fragment was sitting in a world near the water sprite. And then right after the finale event of that same season, we watched the 0 Point come back together. And since it was completely unstable, it generated a new island, along with the birth of thousands of other sprites. That makes it pretty clear that the 0 Point is the one creating them. So they're basically its kids, so to speak. And that would also explain why we've got designs like the Foundation one, since unlike the others, it's not a force of nature, if you want to put it that way. In his specific case, he was inside the 0 Point, so this sphere could crank out millions of sprite of any kind, because it's been in contact with every character and universe you can imagine, whether through its rift portals or in direct contact with it, like what happened to the Rock. And that's great news, but even though it looks like we'll be seeing the end of the sprite soon, that could change for a few reasons, and this would be the first one.